Now, eyes and ears across the nation are eagerly awaiting President Cyril Ramaphosa's first State of the Nation address since his democratic election to President of the Republic. Considering that the country's economy is in need of urgent, intensive recovery, expectations are high, but realities are also harsh at the same time. What will the president prescribe to his patient being South Africa? For a panel discussion to unpack this, I'm joined in studio by Busisiwe Mavuso. She is the COO at Business Leadership South Africa. Sizwe Pamla, Cosatu National Spokesperson, joins us via phone. And Rashaad Tayob, Portfolio Manager at ABAX Investments, joins us on Skype. Thank you all for making the time to join us. Let me start off in studio. Business Leadership South Africa, one of the prominent voices of business in the country, surely are going to be paying attention to what the president is going to share with us tonight. What are the expectations that you think the president has to hit if business is going to give a thumbs up to the State of the Nation?
We certainly are going to be paying attention. I think the president has started off on the right trajectory around revitalizing the economy, because unless and until we do that, then we're not going to achieve the growth that we need to achieve as a country to enable us to create the jobs that we need to create. But I think up to now, Nozipho, we've made enough commitments as a country. Now it's time for implementation. Yeah. So we need clear plans in terms of the positive in the main messaging around the property rights and the policies thereof. We need clarity from the president in terms of the, South African Reserve Bank and its mandate. We were very worried as business from the iterations that came from the ANC in the past week, around changing the mandate of the Reserve Bank. The mandate of the Reserve Bank as it is protects the currency and it is sufficient. There is no reason for us to be going there. But also we are worried because if we are saying we're positioning ourselves as an investment destination, then at least from a posturing perspective, we need to mimic, a country that is really trying to do so. So I think this that we're doing in terms of beating an economy that is already down, and as Minister Titomboweni said, that we're actually being reckless by making these statements, we need clarity thereof. But then from a property rights perspective, there is the issue around the Section 25 and its amendment. What does that mean? What is the amendment going to entail? And how are we as investors and as business, are supposed to react to that, and how are we supposed to engage with that? And I think from a second perspective, we need a clear directive in as far as fiscal consolidation is concerned. Debt to GDP ratio is currently sitting at about 56%. It cannot be. It's unsustainable. We're sitting with a budget deficit of 14.6 billion. What are the measures and the interventions that we're going to put in place to ensure that we achieve that? And I think more needs to come in as far as that is concerned.
So I'm going to come back to that, but two big points. One is around growth and, of course, the fiscal consolidation. So let me come to you, Sizwe, joining us on the line. And to get your sense of the expectations of what Cosatu and Labour broadly are going to be looking for the president to hit in this State of the Nation.
Well, for us, we want to get a sense that he actually does have a plan. We're a little bit fatigued with all of these promises that get us nowhere. I mean, a couple of months ago, he was delivering another sauna. So we don't want him to rehash the same old tired ideas. And we were listening to him talking about this speech is about inspiring. No, this is not about inspiring anyone. We're not going to change South African problems by delivering a motivational speech. We need to hear him explain to us how are we going to implement the outcomes of the job summit that we had last year. It can't be that we have a summit. After a summit, he delivers a sauna. He makes promises because he said to us the last budget was going to give us a sense of how we're going to go about implementing the outcomes of that summit. Next thing, he himself reneges on some of the commitments actually made by government. So we do have high expectations, but we are not looking for a motivational speech here. This is the same president who went into a job summit, made a commitment that they were not going to retrench in the public sector. A couple of months down the line, he came out, he was starting to talk about reducing the size of the public service, was talking about retrenching. So we want to hear what is it that is going to do, not all of these promises that we have been listening to over the last couple of months.
So again, maybe reiterating the point of implementation and the fact that South Africans can't eat inspiration. At some point, we've got to see the jobs, we've got to see the growth. So Cosatu and Labour broadly really looking for a plan of action that the president is going to speak to. Let me come to Rashaad. Rashaad, from an investment perspective in particular, knowing that the president is not only speaking to the local audience, what is this particular community going to be looking for the president to hit?
So I agree with Sizwe. I mean, generally the SONA is more of an inspiration. It's a way to, set the path or at least try and inspire the country. But I think because of the situation of the economy, there's a lot more pressure on President Ramaphosa to deliver more concrete suggestions in the state of the nation. And I think what the investment markets are looking for in terms of reviving confidence, because what we've got is a lack of confidence within the country. So forget about international investment. It's really within the country that you need to generate confidence. And we need two things. I think the bond market and the financial markets need two things to look for confidence. Firstly, some structural reform in terms of SOEs. We know the state of Eskom specifically. There's supposed to be some sort of concrete proposals in there, but I don't think we'll necessarily see it tonight. You're seeing SAA in severe financial trouble, and even SABC is looking like it can't even afford to pay its bills at the moment. So across the board, we do need to see some evidence that they're going to be strong action to prevent SOEs sucking massive amounts of resources out of the state. And the second thing is, how do you revitalize confidence and have conviction that the deficit can remain under control? There was a comment about the debt to GDP ratio. It's escalated at a massive rate. The deficit next year was supposed to be around 4%. Estimates are now all above 5%, and some people are seeing even a close to 6% deficit. Now, that definitely does not inspire confidence in the fiscal sustainability of the country. So we do need structural reform. We need some growth measures which can help to contain the buildup of debt in South Africa.
Busi, I want to come back to the point that Rashaad has built on and that you raised, and this idea of fiscal consolidation given the debt to GDP ratio. And again, he makes mention of the state-owned enterprises as potentially being the biggest risk to the fiscus at the moment. Now, the conversation on restructuring or thinking about restructuring and focusing on the SOEs is not new in South Africa. What would the president have to demonstrate tonight to show that there is the probability of a structural reform, that there is actually serious action that's going to be taken, and we're not just going to talk about SOEs as we have been doing for years now?
I think we need a clear and very deliberate stance that needs to be taken around Eskom. So we've already said we're going to unbundle Eskom. Labour came in and said that's going to be a declaration of war, but we need to be realistic and agree that Eskom in its current state and form is unsustainable. Eskom is carrying 16,000 employees too many, and that is the reality we're going to have to confront. Eskom at the moment is borrowing just to pay salaries and just to service the debt, and unfortunately, Eskom cannot continue to borrow its way out of this mess that it's in. So I think we need to go ahead with the unbundling, and Labour is going to have to come to the party and support, the president in as far as this is concerned, because through the unbundling, then you're going to have to ensure that you see efficiencies that are coming in. And if it means that bringing in competition, because Eskom in its current state, I think the reason why it's where it's at, it's precisely because it is a monopoly.
So I'd like to bring Sizwe in a moment. Sizwe, can you come in on this point? Because I think the need to balance the creation of jobs, which we all know in South Africa, is required, and that a lot of South Africans are going to be looking to the president to speak on the jobs. But yet we also have the voice of business in studio with me today saying, well, the reality is that there are 16,000 too many jobs sitting at Eskom as we speak. How do we begin, and this is the question to you, how do we expect the president to walk that particular tightrope? How do you think he should be navigating this?
Well, firstly, the best way will be for people to stop recycling information that is not proven as fact. That would be a good start. We met the president twice. He was recycling the same statistic, 16,000 jobs too many. We said, give us a scientific skills audit. present it to us, take it to the bargaining chamber so that we can engage. We're still waiting a couple of months down the line. The same thing with the public service. We met the president. He told us, no, the public service is bloated. He said, what is the nurse-to-patient ratio in this country? He couldn't give us information. He said, what is the police-to-citizen ratio? He couldn't give us answers. So this nonsense, to be quite honest, of people just recycling information that the public service is bloated. The South African public service, for example, in 1994, was 1.4 million if you include the TPBC states. It was serving a population of 40.1. Now it is 1.3 million. The population is 57 million. How do you explain that? The fact that the population has grown by 16 million. And yet you say the public service is bloated. People should stop using this information that because it is out there, it is true. We work with facts. We have challenged the president more than once on this to say, you have said a lot of this in public. Your Minister of Finance has repeated this. Bring us the facts. And then until such time that we talk about the facts, we are not going to.
I'm just going to have to cut you because I've got 2 minutes left, but I think the point is well made that you need a conversation that's based on empirical evidence, and you're questioning the facts that you say are being recycled. Rashaad, I'll come to you in a moment, but before I do, a quick response from you, Busu.
Cosatu is being disingenuous here because I sit in the ESCOM board. I know that Cosatu has been presented to in terms of facts and what ESCOM is currently facing. So they know very well the study that these facts have actually been taken from. So ESCOM, for instance, has grown by only 2% in terms of revenue in the past 10 years, and yet the employees have grown by 35%. Yeah. How do you justify that? What business can actually survive in those conditions? So ESCOM is too big and bloated, and we are going to have to retrench 15,000 people, and that's a fact.
Rashaad, I'm going to give you the final word on this. I think a simple question. 3 words have come out of this conversation. A question of whether the president has the power, given what we've been seeing with the appointments in Parliament. Does he have the credibility? And can he inspire confidence? A quick yes or no from you as we close the show.
Yeah, I mean, you're correct on all 3 of these. I think President Ramaphosa has demonstrated his ability to lead the country, and I do think he will do a credible job this evening, but I don't necessarily believe that he'll have as substantial proposals at the market as what the market is expecting. And he's in a very difficult situation. He was handed an economy in a very perilous state. It's just not sustainable to have 5 or 6% of debt to budget deficits, and the revenue is tapped out. They've been putting tax rates have gone up, but revenue hasn't changed, which means that the taxpayer has been tapped out. The question is, how are you going to cut costs? And the SOEs are unfortunately an area where costs have skyrocketed, and that's where it needs to be cut.
Thank you very much. That is the big question that we're going to be taking into the State of the Nation. How are we going to cut costs, if any? A very big thank you to my panelists for coming into this conversation. Sizwe Pamla, who joined us on the line, is the Cosatu National Spokesperson. Busisiwe Mavuso, who is with me here in studio, COO of Business Leadership South Africa. And of course, Rashaad Tayob is a portfolio manager at ABAX Investments.